Hey guys, Travis Gillespie here. Today we're looking at some building blocks of geometry, and we're going to use the diagram to name each geometric figure. So the diagram's below, and we're asked to find a couple of things. The things that I want to look at are points, lines, and planes. So I'm just going to write these down. Great, so let's go ahead and locate at least, let's find 3 points on this figure. And points are the most basic objects that we use in math. They have no shape, no size, but we can see them in the figure drawn. So, well, I see that this dot here is representing a point, and we'll call that point Q. So I'll just put a Q, and it's represented with an uppercase letter, a capital letter. So I've got a Q. It looks like, there's a P and an R here. Why don't I just write point P? And also a third point, well, I could use M or N, and I just want to try N this time. N. So sure, these are 3 points, and I could have chosen any of the 3 in this figure. I'm going to go and fix that N real quick. And the next thing we're going to move on to is let's locate 2 lines. This time I want to find 2 lines here. So looking in the figure, I see there's a line here, and I know this is a line because of these arrows on both sides are pointing in opposite directions, and the arrows are telling me, hey, this line goes on forever in both directions. So the way I express this will be, I'm going to take the letters P and R and draw a line over it with 2 arrows. And the arrows are saying this line's going in both directions or opposite directions, and they'll travel on forever. Let's just take a look at one more thing. I could express this another way. It's the same line, but this time, instead of writing it P first and R second, I'll represent it with an R and P. So RP, or line RP, is the same as line PR, and we can visualize that here in our figure. So my second line, line NR, I'll represent in blue. N, R, and I'll put a line above those 2 points. And the other way that we could rewrite this again would be R, N. Do I have to write it both ways? No, just choose one of the 2. So again, the way we represent lines is by naming it with 2 points that happen to fall on that line. In this case, PR would be 2 points. In this case, would be NR. Let's move on to locating planes. And I wrote it as a plural, but should probably just make it singular because there's only one plane in this figure. And the way we represent planes, you just choose 3 points in the figure and make sure that they're not all 3 on the same line. So I see, hey, you know what? I have point P, and I also have point R, and I need to choose a third point that's not on line PR here. So I could use M, N, or Q. Any of these others would do. I'm just going to get a little bit more room for writing here. And we would call this plane PQR. Now, could I have used these same letters and written it differently? Absolutely. I could have called this plane QRP if I wanted to, or RQP. And it doesn't matter as long as you have 3 points that are inside of the figure or inside of the plane. Remembering that the 3 points cannot be on the same line. So I could not have a third point here called point S. So to represent a plane, I could not use point PRS here to represent that plane because all 3 are on the same line. Let's go ahead and erase that. And let's look at one other way to label a plane. There's one more way to represent a plane. I'm just going to put a divider here, and we'll write that information below. But sometimes when you're looking at a figure, you might see something in the top right-hand corner, and we'll say, hey, you know what? We have a Z here. It looks like it's in cursive or in italics usually. And if you do see that in your plane up in that corner, you just use that one letter so you could say, hey, you know what? This is plane Z that we're looking at in this figure. And that would also be another way to represent a plane. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and look at another problem here, guys. I'm just going to erase this work so that we have some room. And we want to find a location that's shared by two lines. So let's see here. I have got a location that two lines share that location. Well, I see P and R pass through point R, and line NR also pass through point R. So it looks like point R would be the location that is shared by two lines. And I would just write R as the answer.